Cross the river with a barge man, just in his rusty horse, and his eyes are heroes unspoken.
Welcome to the first ever podcast episode for Being Heard, and we are your humble hosts, Brothers Corin. I'm Isaac.
I'm Tarld, and finally we are doing this. We've been flirting with starting these conversations for a while, not just with ourselves as brothers, but with special guests. We've been doing it in different ways for so long that we thought, well, let's just officially do it. And I'm a huge fan of the podcast medium because you can just relax and let things unfold and unfurl as they wish. And it's a pleasure to start this with you, brother.
Yeah, pleasure to start this with you, brother.
Yeah.
What is being heard, and how is it important for you?
It's a food group that I found, to me personally. So you asked me personally. It's one of these three ingredients that are required, I feel, to be well, right? And to be well is not something that occurs in a vacuum. It occurs through a holistic approach to life, right? And part of that is about being in community, and it's not just about others, it's about having an audience of one, feeling connected to self. But being heard is one of the three fundamental ingredients of wellness to me that I think you and I have both discovered in all the work we do around voice and music and song, that being heard stands next to being seen and being reflected back. And you could say being seen and heard. I'd love to unpack that distinction. I was having a conversation last night about the differences. But when you bring all of those feelings together, I feel like it's certainly a part of what makes a human being happy, healthy, well, and vital. So for me personally, it's been a discovery of being able to raise my voice, make a sound, and at times, I'd say the most important part for me has been healing through some stuff I've gone through in my life where I felt like I needed to feel self-acceptance. And sometimes to get to self-acceptance, you need the cozy comfort of someone else's acceptance first. So I think that's shown up in my life about just feeling heard, like allowed to feel how I feel, and having someone receive that and reflect me back has been extremely healing. What's being heard to you?
Thanks for sharing that. I think being heard is something that's shifting in me, and for the longest time, especially as a touring musician and artist, being heard was a complex. I had a complex relationship with it. At times it was tied into my ego, recognizing, self-identifying with being heard. And I think more recently, just coming to hearing and the importance of hearing myself and that relationship, and deepening that space of self-reflection. And it's no less important. It's just the who is listening is different, or has shifted to listening inwardly. And so it's almost like if I don't hear myself, I don't exist to myself in the same way. And then the trick has been to not identify with what I'm hearing also.
Right.
And so I think early on in life, I was surprised by being heard. It was a kind of surprising relationship of hearing my voice in the world. And I think through different experiences, being embarrassed and kind of feeling different or not belonging, the kind of the voice doesn't harmonize. So then, traveling around the world singing to rooms was very healing to me, because it was an acceptance in that way that you were speaking to in the ears of others. And then, shifting the where I get that acceptance from needing others to then being that source of acceptance, has been the third wheel.
Right.
of the journey, and that's where I'm at, and it's brought me greater curiosity about the voice, and being of service to others to find perhaps peace in their relationship to their voice. And there's so many different people out there that have so much to say on this topic, and so you and I are both so curious, and I think this is a great place to unfurl and research and to learn. So we're here really to learn what it's like to have a voice, and how can that be used for your human potential, or a pathway inward and outward. There's a both and-ness to the voice. It's both inward and outward. It's both meditative and transactive. It's both behavioral and experiential and pre-verbal. We using the voice, we can go beyond words and express emotion, and even feelings that we can't put words to most of the time, or aren't allowed to express. And so these parts of us go unexpressed. And I think when we go into expressing and being heard in ways in which have been deemed unacceptable before, and we can just kind of use words, so we're not offending yourself or anyone, you're just exploring different sounds. So I'm curious about what science has to say about the power of the voice. We're going to talk to scientists, we're going to talk to philosophers, artists, musical voices, voice leaders from around the world, and be students of this work with you and have fun. I think we may sound serious right now, but I think a lot of why we're still together in this world doing stuff is because it's fun, and we want to invite you into playfulness again around your voice, because we find that it raises our voltage, it brings vitality, it brings joy, it brings freedom. We don't have to take ourselves as seriously as perhaps we've been told to. Yeah. So that's what being heard is to me. That's great. And the context of this.
I love that context. Journey. You're such a researcher. I love it, and curious. And I think when we I think for me, the more we get to do this work around helping people rediscover their voice and deepen a relationship to it, especially that, right? That it gets simpler and simpler in a way, and which is hard to kind of put words on, because the profoundly simple is the simply profound, and we can't really separate the human from the voice, and the voice from the human, from humanity. However, so often, and this is what we're seeing out there, is that there's a truly voice hostile environment out there. And it's not that it's all hostile, but we have spent multiple generations kind of creating this us and them pedestal, artist and audience, competitive, comparative industry around voice often. And make sure you look good, make sure you sound good, be it singing, speaking, taking a stage, leading a boardroom. We often put so much pressure on the voice, but so many of us have modified and sort of boxed ourselves away from being ultimately connected to how it is that we feel, allowing our voice to be vehicle, right? Amplify for that. Of course, there's environments here and there where your voice is not everything that you want to give voice to is welcome in every moment, of course that. But what we find out there time and time again through the programs and courses and journeys we're doing is that a lot of people are living not fully at home and connected to the experience of sounding out who they are in the world, which means if that's the case, then there's this incredible opportunity to come home, to sound out and be the first to hear yourself. So I think that's what's fascinating to me too, is the different ways in which we can be reflected back. We can be our first audience member. And obviously through this podcast and these conversations, we want to leave little breadcrumb trail nuggets and maybe some like deeper, nerdier side of not just voice expression and voice as a whole body instrument, but the subtlety of how the creative process and the voice gives us vehicle to know ourselves. And we don't always get to unpack all of that, right? Because we're often leading people through modules and weeks and workshops and specific stages where we don't necessarily have the time or even the capacity to lift the veil on some of the nerdier sides of that exploration, which ultimately is kind of terribly human, terribly simple, and then vastly complex at the same time. It's sort of like a paradox.
Yeah, we do have a complex relationship to the voice. We are one of the complex vocal learners of our type of mammal, with these powerful voices. It's the weapon of our influence, so to speak. If we are confronted by a bear in the woods, we stand tall and start screaming, using our voice as a sonic weapon. And it's also a tool for great healing. You know, ancient traditions like the Vedic tradition looked at the karma that was processed in the voice.
Yeah.
And, you know, so much attention to music, song and voice in that lineage. And also Tibetan, you know, ancient Chinese, Egyptian, definitely sonic warriors and healers. So I think that, you know, the church also brought a place for music, but it was also it perhaps was, you know, the at least the Western tradition of the church was perhaps the beginning of the constriction and the competitive, comparative, limited voice. You know, that, you know, perhaps the music business or the industry around music has perpetuated and commodified. So
definitely,
you know, I think there is no scarcity when it comes to music, song, and voice. It's in us. It's inborn. It's part of our brain. We're going to explore all of that: the science, the mysticism, the philosophy behind it, the psychology. We're going to have so many great conversations. So, you know, we're going to just start here. What is your first question that you like to ask?
Yeah.
You know, anyone around the voice?
Well, firstly, you know, how has voice been, you know, in your life? What kind of friend has your voice been to you? What's your current, and if you're listening to this right now, what's your current relationship to your voice? You know, is it a friend? Is it a relationship that honors the inherent value of this gift you've been given? That is, like you said, one of a few complex vocal learners, that we have this incredible connection point to experience life through the interface of this instrument, this apparatus, this like ability to pre-language, express, vent, relate, reflect, and leave a sound that, you know, unless it's knocked out by some kind of universal element that goes on infinitely, right? I mean, like a sound keeps traveling unless it's interfered with. So like what's your relationship to that, of which is unrepeatable? What's your friendship like?
Well, since I'm the only other person in the room, I'll ask that.
Good, yeah.
Answer that.
Do that.
That was...
I was asking toward the people possibly listening.
What is my relationship to
today,
my
as of
own
today?
voice, or how has it been?
What's your relationship to it as of today? I like that
today.
better. Yeah. Today's good.
You don't want to know my voice story. It's how is it today? Today it feels...
Okay, yeah, go back to Ben then. Let's do Ben.
Ben.
How's it been?
How's it been?
How's it been?
How's my voice been?
Prior to this moment?
Well, I wasn't aware of my voice, to be honest. It wasn't a conversation growing up. We took it for granted in our household. We had big voices. We were all pretty loud. I think Dad was not as loud.
No.
And, you know.
Yeah.
But we were loud. And
were we
that
loud?
We were
loud.
average loud.
Yeah.
Just kind of big voices.
Certainly not
manifesting
like told
generators
to shush,
and human design. just vocal heavy, vocal up.
Nothing's changed.
We were vocal up, and but then, we were making silly noises all the time.
Yes, we were. Yeah.
Functional Tourette's, perhaps,
Yes.
to that level.
Yeah.
Just loud all the time, noises, silliness.
Yeah.
And at 15, my best friend, Yaniv, who was, all my other best friends were in his band, the Starfix, they're called. We were just hanging out, and he played a mean guitar, I like to say, and it was just so trance-like, and he was so connected. His instrument, his body instrument, like as Tara would like to say, was connected to his guitar, and so I was just experiencing that, and he saw that I was feeling it, and said, "Well, sing for me, Zach." And so I did, and that in that moment encountered my voice for the first time with everyone listening. So on being heard, it was quite an awakening all at once.
Yes. God,
and I was in denial because he was like, "I didn't know you could sing." I said, "I can't sing. I don't know what just happened. That was weird." He was like, no, mate. And he didn't sell me out, and he really, he didn't accept.
No, he really heard
my
you.
decline.
He really heard you.
He was like, no.
Yeah.
In front of everyone, and used, his town crier, vibe to say, did everyone witness that? All right, here's my request. I want you to join my band, and I'm going to teach you the songs, and you can sing.
Yeah.
I mean, what a strange,
incredible
what a barge man kind of initiation.
Yeah.
Handed the oar.
So true, he did, didn't he? Wow.
It was quite. Yeah, I'm feeling all the energy for the first time, in a way. Just telling it, and so my best mates all crowded around and didn't let me say no. So I think I silently accepted, resisting. I had no intention or awareness of music in my life, other than loving Nirvana or whatever at the time. So, 2 weeks later, singing in front of 200 kids, and what I remember.
Was it in Bondi?
Was it was in Bondi.
I came. I remember just being standing there, like, what is happening?
How did this?
How is this happening? Yeah, I remember.
Wow,
Yeah.
it was such a strong request, and one that I wasn't allowed to resist.
You were ushered in, right?
They basically taught me the role.
Was it really 2 weeks?
In 2 weeks.
Was it really 2 weeks?
It was really 2 weeks.
I mean, think about that though. Like, never singing, handed the mic to be the front man of a band with original songs. 2 weeks later, playing a show.
Learned the lyrics.
That's amazing. When you really think about it.
I had a way better memory back then.
That's
learned
insane.
the whole set.
Well, that's just the...
The kids were jumping
brain.
up and down and really feeling it. And I remember looking across at my best mates and feeling like I could talk to them in a language for the first time.
Right. But to the part of you that was just ultimately human and part of a tribe of people, right?
Yeah.
Like Sydney Beaches community, teenager.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you were handed like this new, special power to be heard and be reflected back.
Yeah.
Like, what did that feel like?
Like I existed. Like that there was a phenomena that I am that was experienced, tasted, acknowledged, reflected back, and understood and belonged. These like you said, food groups that are tribal, perhaps in our DNA, where we are tribal creatures, you might say, and so we survive, or our DNA knows that we survive from a sense of community and belonging. And so there was something in being heard in that moment that was very nourishing to a 15-year-old. Yeah. Which is such a vulnerable time where
to find identity,
no one's really feeling like they belong.
Unpacking that though further, because I feel that there's so many nuances here on what being heard. What was it you were experiencing was like partially feeling how it felt to like feel in music, right? So that there was a permission to like wail and sing and feel without overly focusing on like consciously what you're feeling, but you were in the song, you were in the music, you were being moved by the music. The music was moving through you, and then you were getting to witness yourself, and then you were witnessing others witness you and reflecting you back. So what's the most powerful part of that equation? Like,
I don't know what's coming to me right now, which I've never shared, and I wasn't prepared for this conversation, but I think our mother and father both played music a lot in the house. And so my musical awareness and natural musicality was nourished subconsciously through their love of music, you know, through even your early discovery of music, just kind of peripherally and environmentally, music, as long as it's in the house and the voice is allowed to sing along. And, you know, mum was always gassing it up when we'd come home from school, gassing up the Rolling Stones and just singing on top note into the knife,
while she made
into
dinner,
while chewing carrot
into the knife.
like whatever, you know. And she freed her voice big time. And so, you know, there was an environment for the voice to be trusted. It was scary. I'll just say that. Like, it was really scary trusting that moment.
Yeah.
It's so much to lose in that small microcosm.
Yeah.
And, you know,
I feel like we see people
in other ways
feeling what you're feeling, you know, when they come and work with us in the songwriter's journey, and they happen to be, I don't know, in their 50s or 60s, and they're stepping into music to get to know themselves or finally live out this dream they've had that they put to the wayside, right? or they never followed. They never got they never got that initiation like you did, or that request, a strong enough request to be included. Or maybe they were in a band in high school and then just hung it up, or maybe they were in a choir and they didn't fully live it out. Whatever the case is, I think that risk reward is there because the voice is so vulnerable, right? So you were in the midst of risking falling flat, but the reward of being seen and heard and reflected back by yourself and others in the fabric of music, I just don't know if there's anything like it.
No.
And I know that a lot of people out there's many more people out there that have experienced the feeling of being in a room when some musical moment is happening that is palpable, it's potent, it's real, everyone feels it, everyone's connected, everyone's like, whoa, this moment could be 100 people, it could be 20,000 people, it could be a Dell football stadium. But there's a moment you probably can recall, in fact, you know, recall one right now where you're just like, whoa, this moment. And then just reposition yourself as the music, or one of the people the music's coming through. And it's that much more potent. It is a really potent experience to take the stage of your life and let your voice sound out what it feels like to be you and alive, and allow others to witness it in a way that's it's one of the greatest rides that is out there.
Rites of passage. And yet why have so many of us counted ourselves out of that experience?
Yeah. I mean,
why?
Small voices, you know, what we call small voices are micro, medium, and, you know, larger trauma that occurs that has a direct impact on voice. We call it it's voice trauma, but times in our lives where we were impacted by moments that didn't leave us feeling safe and supported. I want to say the word supported because I think supported is the right word, where our voices went unsupported, uninvited, and unrequested. So, you know, we look at these small voices as thoughts, feelings, sensations, and emotions that are naturally negative leaning, automatic, and little alarm warnings from our nervous system. From times that our nervous system made markers saying, hey, maybe don't be your full expression, right? Maybe don't step forward here. And it's not just in song and music, it's in life, in voice, in all the moments your voice shows up. But I feel like the simpler distillation is what we're seeing out there in the world. What I see so often is people that have lived a life of many times, even if they're privileged people and they had food, water, shelter, love, many people have gone through many years of feeling quietly unsupported in their own voice, self-supported and supported by the community around them.
Thank you for speaking to that. That's why we started the Your Big Voice Foundation after spending some time in schools, public schools with no funding, no music classes, no instruments.
Yeah.
And, post-COVID, the teacher was really struggling to help these kids settle into their bodies.
Yeah.
Settle down, come home to their body, calm,
Come back
relax,
into the room, yeah.
peaceful, ready to learn, and we like to say associated and claimed in and at home in the body.
Yeah.
And any form of meditation brings you there, and the voice, we find, has this multiplier effect of being physiological, and inwardly focused, even though we've assumed that it's all outwardly focused. The truth is the voice is a pathway home to an inward experience, to a self-reflective moment that then also, by way of being sound, connects us to the whole. And that's the other element, this interweaving togetherness that is so missing from these isolated little pods of our youth working on their screens, separated, not interacting with each other as much. So, just music, song, and voice, simple practices brought into that learning environment can be, we believe, have a powerful effect.
And an early stage, right, where voice is becoming competitive, comparative, or unsupported,
perhaps,
again, ridiculed, embarrassment, things that occur around voice early. Bullying, or
unsafe.
Even teachers that havenent been trained in voice positive culture.
Yeah.
Right? So you come
Can you
into
talk
this
to us
early
about
place.
voice positivity? One of our main...
I mean, we're going to probably talk a lot about this, but, I think at the core of voice positive culture creation, it has to start with self, right? So much of what we do around voice is, can you first create the petri dish, the container around yourself, such that you are self-supportive of investing in a healthy relationship to your voice, right? Which means, can you be generous with yourself instead of investing in the negative, critical parts of us?
And how does one do that practically if I'm hell-bent on hating the sound? I've got nothing but bad thoughts about my voice. How does that work?
Well, firstly, it's not about fixing the programmed negative automatic thoughts, feelings, sensations, and emotions that might occur, right, in the system. Like, most of us have been entrained and trained to have those synapses go off when we are using our own voice in a way that feels vulnerable and risky, right? And, top 5 negative ones that we talk a lot about, we'll talk more about, are, it's not safe, it's not good enough, I'm unworthy, don't be too much, it's going to be perfect. These kinds of warnings from our system in the mind and body through thoughts or feelings. However, it's not about shifting that. It's about refocusing. So this is absolutely a voice mindfulness practice to refocus your intention, direction, and imagination on finding one thing that you accept, like, or love about the felt sense, like Fred Johnson would say. One thing you like, love, or accept about how it feels to breathe, to inhale, to make a hum, to give voice to that word. How does that word occur upon your lips? We can always choose to mindfully refocus on generosity for ourselves. And I think that we've noticed that is often the doorway that opens the next ways of being that creates a voice positive experience.
Generosity to us, practically super boiled down, is what's one thing that you can accept at the base rate of accept, like, or love about the sound, right, that's coming from you in that very moment. What's one thing that
What's
you
one
can
thing? I mean,
taste,
try it now.
experience?
Just in this moment, you know, just take a moment, just allow air to rush in through your nostrils here. And as that air's rushing in, just notice how it feels upon your nostrils, and as it kind of just draws itself down into your chest, moves your belly. Hopefully you're feeling nice and relaxed and feeling that belly expand. And then as that exhale rises back out of your body, follow it back out. Notice how it feels as it rises and falls or rushes in and naturally squeezes out. And find one thing you can accept, like, or love about that feeling. Notice how it feels. Notice one part of the experience that you can continuously focus on and acknowledge that it ain't too bad or it might even be blissful to recognize the energy that you're creating by inhaling and exhaling. There's a start. And that's already singing, because even contained in the white noise, let's say, that you're making, and even more clear and illustrated by something like a shh, contained in that sonic spectrum of sound. Try it, that white noise. Shh is every note you've ever sung or any note you'll ever sing, right? They're contained in the white noise spectrum. So our voice starts with breath, with hissing, with shushing, with ocean breath, ujjayi breath, right? So if we start that simple, we can start to learn to befriend generously our voice again.
It's a good start.
It's got to start somewhere.
I know. Well, we'll move from generosity next episode, I think. I'm kind of liking this brother on brother thing. I think we have to keep doing this.
Sounds kinky. Brother on brother.
You heard it here first. Welcome to being heard.
There it is. So much more to come, I have a feeling. If this is the only episode you ever hear, then you have to write to us and say,
please call
where's
Mum.
the second episode, guys?